The air, water, earth, and sun awes us. The four awesome forces of nature can provide 1,000 times more energy than we need. You are also awesome. You and me and all EarthKind are the fifth element. We are literally changing the world. Technology is now harnessing nature's awesome power for electricity, heat, and transportation. And the best news is that the clean energy transition can save us money and create a more prosperous, just, beautiful, and sustainable civilization today. Welcome to the Awesome EarthKind podcast. If you would, please let folks know who you are, where do you live, what kind of work do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Really looking forward to the conversation. So my name is Brandon Bartneck. I live in the Detroit, Michigan area, and I work for a company called FEV, where I lead our North American marketing and some of our business development activities. And FEV, if you aren't familiar, is a engineering services company, more or less. So we partner with companies in the energy and primarily mobility space to create sustainable solutions for them. So our primary offering is engineering services. Basically, we're on the back end developing, whether it's propulsion systems, electronic systems, vehicle systems. We're behind a lot of the technology that you see driving around on the road or off the road in agricultural construction, rail, marine applications, etc.
Excellent. And we like to start with I call it a quantum quote, an inspirational quote that helps set the mindset. So you got something you care to share, Brandon?
Yeah, I really enjoy the quote, adversity introduces a man to himself, or put another way, ego or obstacle is the way is what I like from an author, Ryan Holiday, that I follow.
Obstacles are the way. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the obstacle is the way. So basically, lean into the adversity, the obstacles in your life, and learn from them.
Excellent. And then overcome them and move ahead. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So exactly. Why are you in this? What is it that motivates you, man? Why are you in this field?
Yeah, so I really the meaning or what we can do if we solve this problem. So if we're focusing on safe, sustainable mobility is really where I live. And it's I mean, as your listeners and Ron, certainly this sustainability, this climate issue is very meaningful. It's a problem that needs to be solved, and it's a great challenge to work on. And then the same thing if you add the safety aspect. I mean, in the transportation mobility sector, accidents and such are certainly a problem. A lot of people die on roadways or get seriously injured. And if we can tackle both of these problems at the same time, it's a meaningful engineering challenge to pursue.
And so for you, it's the engineering challenge, or? Yeah,
so my background's in mechanical engineering. I enjoy solving complicated problems and hoping to do so. Now that, as I mentioned, I'm in business development and marketing, so I'm not necessarily solving the day-to-day stuff, but it's the application of these solutions and how we can get these, how we can solve these problems and make a meaningful impact. It's really where I live.
Cool. And what is it about FEV that makes it so unique?
Yeah, so it's a cool place to live, and actually, I'm assuming most people haven't heard, because unless you're in the industry, it's kind of a niche business. But I mean, we're a big company, over 6,000 people, based in Aachen, Germany, and like I said, I'm here in North America. But it's really cool in that we're working with essentially everyone trying to solve these problems. So we started in the internal combustion engine world back in the 70s and have evolved to cover basically all safe and sustainable mobility. And we work with everyone from a up and coming startup to the largest OEMs in the world, suppliers, all mobility sectors. So I mentioned a few of them. You should also add in aerospace and basically anything that's moving people or goods. And the cool thing is, working in all these different areas, we're able to draw connections and systems level connections where we can pull expertise from, hey, we developed so-and-so battery pack for this on-road electric vehicle application. If you're also in the electrified aircraft space and you're trying to solve some of these problems, you're trying to figure out how to deal with packaging design constraints and how to simulate your battery pack and test it. We're able to pull from this wealth of experience from all these different areas, which personally, I enjoy kind of the big picture, the view and all this experience that we have.
Excellent. And what are the trends that you guys see in terms of what's driving the development of electric vehicles, and what are the biggest trends you see out there, mobility and everything else?
Yeah, so certainly electrification is part of it. I don't love the acronym necessarily, but I think CASE is still somewhat relevant in talking about the trends. So it's connected, automated, shared, and electrified vehicles. If we focus on all those areas are interesting and worth pursuing. But if we your question about the electric vehicles, if we focus on this electrification area, um, it's a I don't know, it's a broad topic, I guess, and there's certainly a lot of up and coming pure electric vehicle companies, whether it's in the personal vehicle space, you think Tesla, or if it's more in kind of the commercial vehicle space. But I think part of, and maybe we'll talk about this in more detail later, but part of what interests me and has really caught my attention is that it's not necessarily as simple as, hey, electric vehicles are our savior. Let's switch to electric vehicles and let's do it. There's a ton of great stuff about electric vehicles, and I think they're the perfect use for several applications. But I guess what we're seeing is there's also attention. There should be attention paid to still hybrid vehicles, still improving the internal combustion engine, finding ways to um, generate power and using a fuel source other than fossil fuels. So whether it's hydrogen or some other type of a more sustainable fuel. And that's, yeah, I guess those are all areas that we're seeing pursued.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So I work with a lot of different policy organizations, and it's kind of funny to see the split now between the very focused environmentalists who want to see this transition to electric vehicles, which you all want to see, right? Zero emissions. It's great. It takes the clean energy from the sun or the wind or the water or wherever, and then channels it into transportation mobilization. But then there's the others, and it's still in the environmental movement, committed lifelong environmentalists who say, yeah, this is all great. Definitely we got to go there. But in the meantime, in between now and then, in between now and 2030, 2040, 2050, we've got a lot of people who are subject to massive amounts of environmental justice issues where they're in communities where transportation's going by, their lungs and their kids are all being subjected to massive amounts of pollution. And we should have an interim step with some alternative fuels, and whether it's hydrogen as a piece, or along the way biofuels that can be put into diesel and other heavy transportation equipment, etc. So what's your perspective on kind of how do you see things, what needs to happen when and how fast, and what do you see as the best options going one step at a time?
Yeah. So first, I would agree with most of what you're saying there, and I would say it's an incredibly complicated question. So I certainly don't know all the answers, and yeah, I can speak from my opinion. And actually, it's part of I run my own podcast and have for a little over a year now, and I essentially, kind of like you are, I'm interviewing industry experts, and part of the reason I did this was try to learn, because I had no clue, kind of in my own mind, if I really want to focus on what's the most sustainable option, how can I personally try to help move this mobility um, sector towards some type of a more sustainable solution. I didn't know what the right solution is, so that's where I'm still kind of in this information gathering stage. But from what I've gathered, where I personally come from, I guess it's understanding, first of all, that there are a lot of us are working towards the same objective. So there's exceptions where you have people with self-interest who are trying to make money or policy or whatever in certain areas, but for the most part, we're working towards the same objective of cleaning up electrification, or cleaning up mobility. And electrification is certainly part of that, especially if you include hybrid and plug-in hybrid options for personal vehicles. But I think I don't know, the most important thing I would say is trying to understand specific use cases and applications, and trying to not provide a blanket solution. So if you're, I don't know, if you're building a passenger car, it's a very different solution than if you're trying to say, hey, I'm putting together a last mile delivery route, or I'm trying to provide a vehicle for this route, where I have dedicated routes. For the most part, I know how far a vehicle is going to run. I know it's going to come back to the same place every day. I can set up an electric charging infrastructure in that single place, and I don't need to worry about I don't know, charge misuse or not charging hybrid applications. So I'd say if there was one kind of message or one big trend I'm seeing and kind of trying to lean into, it's this importance of, and it extends well beyond what I just talked about here, but it's this importance of actually understanding kind of from a first principles perspective each application and trying to not just provide a blanket solution.
Fascinating. Yeah, actually, you know, I totally agree with you. I mean, to me, the first step for most people, if you live in a single family residence, is to recognize that 98% of people's trips are less than 50 miles. When you get that piece done and you realize that if you're in a single family residence, you can just plug an electric vehicle into your normal socket, 110, 120 volt socket in your garage, and it does 200 miles with an overnight charge. That means that 98% of your trips, you can wipe out all your gasoline and carbon footprint from that usage. And hopefully you got solar on your house, or you're part of a community solar program, or you're getting your clean energy from your utility through a green program, whatever. But basically that eliminates about 40% of most people's carbon, which is coming from transportation. And if you're in a single family residence, to me, there's 50 different electric vehicles now. They're all there's all options out there, from the high end down to the low end and everything in the middle. So that's a use application. Then you get those longer distance trips where you got to go into grandma's house, or you're a traveling salesperson, or now you need something and you can't be totally constrained by the infrastructure. Although Tesla has developed a tremendous infrastructure for their electric vehicles, the rest of the infrastructure is coming along, getting close, not quite there yet. So that puts you into a little different frame where maybe a plug-in hybrid might be the better solution for you. Then there's multifamily buildings and people who live there, and what do they do? And then there's all the short-term transportation, and as you're saying, last mile delivery. But then there's the longer distance transportation of goods and making that happen. And then there's jets. So there is layers depending upon where you are and what you're doing, what the right solution is. So from your perspective, what's the best place? I mean, where does FEV start? Where do you guys start? Do you do the whole thing, a whole range, or you do focus in on heavy mobility? Or
Yeah, so I'd say we certainly support the whole range, and there's kind of two different entities or angles that we take it. So we have an FEV consulting group, which is providing kind of strategic management consulting, and it's trying to answer some of these types of questions. It's working with whether it's OEMs or suppliers or cities, trying to figure out, okay, what are the best places? How are we setting up charging infrastructure? What are markets going to look like, and trends and technology? And that's where we're providing, kind of trying to solve some of these questions and try to figure out what does propulsion systems look like 10 years from now. But then the engineering service side, which is kind of how the company started and provides, I'd say, a good chunk of the business. Yeah, basically we're listening to what our customers want to develop. So if someone comes to us and they're trying to develop whatever type of vehicle, whether it's a hybrid, electric, hydrogen, fuel cell, hydrogen ICE, and yeah, whether it's for regulatory issues, whether it's for marketing, whether they're trying to capitalize on consumer trends, etc. We're coming in with the expertise that we provide. We support all these developments, and we have tons of years of experience and examples that we can point to in all of these different use cases, I guess.
Cool. So let's say we look at 10 years from now. Let's just look ahead 10 years. And you were talking about case, connected, autonomous, shared, electric. So what do you see kind of in this race to have all of that happen? What do you see happening first? What do you see as kind of the next stage after the 10 years? So what's within 10 years? What's happening after 10 years, you think, Brandon?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm certainly going to get into kind of some guesswork, especially me personally, because this isn't my area of expertise. But
you don't have a crystal ball that's going to define it and tell us exactly what's going to happen, man. I'm disappointed. Okay, go ahead, Brandon. Give us your best guess, man.
Yeah. So with that being said, I think we can tackle a few of these. So connected vehicle, I think we're making good progress there, and in some ways, this is a key enabler for all of the other different steps. So if you want safe automated vehicles, it's critical that the vehicles are able to talk to each other. When a car is going to stop, when it's coming through an intersection, and also that vehicles are able to talk with the infrastructure. So in some ways, I see connected vehicles, connectivity is well on its way, and then also, like I said, a key enabler for the others. We've been focused on this topic of electrification, so I can touch on here. I don't know. I think it's a ball that's rolling downhill at this point. I think a lot of factors, regulatory pressures, and then also now we're seeing some of the consumer trends and such that are supporting this. So I expect electrification to continue to grow significantly. I don't know, I guess, exactly what that looks like, whether it's like we're talking about here, full battery electric vehicles, hybrids, fuel cell electric vehicles, kind of what the split is there, but certainly a trend that's going to take off in the next 10 years. And then if you talk about automated vehicles, that in itself is a crazy long discussion talking about, I mean, just the simple question of what is the current state of reality is not the most straightforward to answer, but given the claims of all the different players in the space. But no, my read is I don't know, kind of analogous to the last mile delivery, kind of the more geo-constrained, lower speeds, geofence type applications will take off and be, whether it's fully automated like what Waymo is doing or something along that direction, I think is certainly feasible in the next few to 10 years. But outside of that, when you start talking about personal use vehicles that theoretically can drive anyway, I think we're probably farther off from these fully automated options than you might be led to believe if you are reading certain news sources.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see how the whole diversity of opinions out there and the levels of sophistication. And I just read today that China actually had a recall on all of Tesla's vehicles because of an autopilot situation. And the good part of this is that even though there's a full recall in China on all of them, it's a software upgrade. So it's really not going to be a big deal, right, by the time you're done. Yeah. So, yeah, all these different changes that are coming in. But then, Amazon has 100,000 Rivians on order, right? Electric vehicle, short-term, last mile delivery. Well, I think it's last mile. Would you consider that last mile?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a really exciting time. And, one of the things that's most exciting is how all these technologies are converging, where we have the, ability to process massive amounts of data, the ability to communicate instantaneously with everything around us, the Internet of Things, so to speak, and now doing that with our vehicles and the infrastructure. But then ultimately, when you think about your GPS and your whatever way you get around, and you realize every once in a while there's this weird glitch, and if you're on this back road and you don't have cell phone service, where are you? What are you doing? Where do you go now? Oh my gosh. I don't think you want an AI controlling that at that point. You want to definitely take control of the wheel, right? So it's going to be really interesting. So for yourself, what kind of challenges have you encountered along your path? What lessons have you learned, and what are you doing differently now than you used to do?
Yeah, so I've been with FEV for 4.5 years now, and I came in. So I was with Boeing before in kind of a pure process engineering, so pure engineering role. So this was my first dive into the sales business world. So there was a lot to be learned there about how that works, and I don't know, just developing all the skills. So I guess there's I'd say a ton that I'm doing differently, but I don't know. But part of it is trying to improve my own skills in the area. So I don't know, communication skills are certainly something that I struggled with, and I can't say I'm the greatest at certain areas, but it have come a long way. And then also the other side is just consumer focus and really understanding my customers and potential customers' business and where they're coming from, and not just as an abstract entity, but the specific people I'm talking to, what they care about, what where we can do, where I can, and where FEV can help to solve their problems. So I'd say those are areas that have come a long way.
So if you were to share one unique, we call them a Supernova Value, one unique tool, tip, tactic that you think everybody should know that you've learned along the path, you have one that you care to share?
Unique tip or tactic?
Or a tool or something about that, everybody should really think about, something that you've learned that came to you for way.
Yeah. So I think I got one. So I would say just the importance of firsthand experience and kind of putting yourself out there. So I don't know, if I think back a year and a half ago when I had identified that kind of spoken communication was a weak spot for me, and then also had identified that because I was so much in this sales and marketing focus that I had kind of lost touch with some of the technology and the trends. I put the solution I came up with was starting this podcast, which forced me to one, get better at speaking, because I'm going to be recording something every week and I'm going to have to listen back to it. So I better not embarrass myself. And then also I'm talking to the world experts in a lot of ways in these technology areas. So it kind of through that has forced me to actually dive in and understand some of these topics that we've been talking about.
Cool. So firsthand experience, outstanding. So most of us in our careers have at some point had this kind of down point where something happened that was just like the low point, and it was like, oh my gosh, and everything kind of crashes. But then in that moment, you gain some insight that helps shift your perspective on everything going forward. You got anything there that you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah, for sure. And if you look back to the quote I provided at the beginning of the episode, I think there's several that I could point to, but one in particular, so part of my role has been in the past, at least, that I'm a global key account manager for one of the big OEMs around here in the automotive space, and we lost the first big opportunity that really came from them to a competitor, which was a real nice project that could have potentially come our ways, and that was I said that was a great experience that kind of forced me to reflect and figure out, okay, where within my role and what I'm doing here, where are the weak spots, and where could I improve what I'm doing. So I think that led to 1 year or longer kind of really intense reflective process and understanding where like I said, the weak spots are, and what I need to do to improve that and make sure that we win the next opportunities that come.
And so for you, what was that?
I think I've actually already touched on it. Some of it's really understanding the customer. So that was an area in which I don't think I had as good of an understanding as I should or could have about really the key drivers and understanding kind of the emotion behind some of these decisions, and where I personally could have done a better job kind of influencing perception and figuring out where the blind spots were in that process.
Interesting. Know your customer, know them. Not just the factual, but the emotional piece of it, huh?
Yeah, and that's especially coming from an engineering background, it's not something that is commonly understood. That you're talking to people who are in business positions and in decision making positions, but even the potentially clearly black and white rational decisions are influenced by more than just what's on the paper.
Yeah, it's really incredible, isn't it? Sometimes, and yep, no doubt about it. That is it the third brain, the first brain, I don't know, whatever, the reptilian piece, the emotional reaction to stuff that you got to watch and know about. And someone had a bad experience with someone doing certain things a while ago, and you just happen to recreate that same pattern. It doesn't matter how good you are now, you just reminded them of something that they had a really bad experience with, and that's that. So, yep, hear you. It's good points. All right. I'd like to enter into what we call the Pulsar Round, where we're going to ask you a series of questions and look for your short, succinct, amazing, and mind-blowing answers. Are you ready, Brandon?
Sure.
All right. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Be an athlete from the sports day, which has contributed pretty well to the work life as well.
Be an athlete. And to you, that means?
Yeah. So back then I was playing quarterback, and kind of a prototypical quarterback, and I was influenced by someone I was working with at the time to focus on you're more than just my role. My job is to be a leader and an athlete on the field, not just being a rigid kind of fill in the blocks. And I think when I think about my role now in the business space, I certainly have responsibilities in the business development and the marketing space, but I need to have an awareness and understanding that, I know, first and foremost, I'm representing myself and the company as someone who is trying to make an impact in these industries. And it's trying to be more than just, prototypical salesperson who's coming in with a very clear kind of narrow lined objective and perception.
Outstanding. No I in team. Is that the concept, or?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Or back to the engineering side as well. I think it's the importance of kind of systems thinking and the understanding of how all the pieces come together.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're all part of a greater system. We all have pieces that are part of our system, and it's all interconnected. It's all communication. There's all sorts of levels and interactions. And yeah, it's a really good point. So I studied system science as my graduate work. It was really a whole conversation for another day, but
Yeah, nice.
Cool. All right. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Personal habits. So I'd say I don't know. Exercise is kind of the bland one, but if I gave a more interesting one, I think it's just this iterative process that's kind of been a theme here of reviewing and self-reflection and understanding kind of what skills, attributes, perspective, etc., are required for a given situation scenario, and then trying to actively pursue and gain those skills.
Excellent. An internet resource that you'd like to share that you think would be good for people to check out.
Yeah, so I'd say a simple one, Seth Godin's blog. So if you're not familiar with the guys, Seth Godin, Seth.blog, and I get daily, whether you're in marketing or really if you're not in marketing, understanding that, yeah, if you're trying to make a difference, your job is to influence people and make a pitch. And I've learned countless lessons from Seth.
Outstanding. Book you'd recommend to people and why?
I'd say Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So that I was exposed to it a few years ago, and that was really a portal for me into studying both philosophy and theology. So I went throughout all the Stoic thinkers, and then kind of asked the question, okay, who are these people influenced by? So you go back to Plato and Aristotle, and then try to look and again try to get this systems level understanding through there. But starting with Marcus Aurelius is particularly the Gregory Hayes version. I think the translation is much easier to grasp than other versions.
Awesome. I have my fond remembrances of days of studying Plato and all. So thank you for reminding me. It just put a smile on my face, man. All right. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing for everybody in the world, what would it be?
Yeah, I guess maybe the obvious thing here is I'd like to change all the ways that we're moving people around your vehicle that's sitting outside, everything else that's transporting stuff, and make it something that's not impacting the environment. So I think if I had a magic wand, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right. We're entering into what we call the WTF or F section, weather time fudge, an extreme weather event that you lived through and tell us the tale, which of course there's many more of those more frequently and more intensely these days with climate disruption, or weather time fun, the most fun you've ever had in the type of weather it was. Pick one if you would be so kind and share a tale.
Yeah, I think I'll somewhat blend those. So when I was living down in Charleston, South Carolina, we had a hurricane come through, and my work was closed at Boeing at the time, which led to me leaving town for what I call a hurricane up to the hills in South Carolina, where I was able to spend some time hiking, watching football, etc. My wife on the other side, I think she'll probably twist my arm when she hears this, but she works in the hospital as a nurse, and so she was not able to leave with us, and she was in the hospital for it's like 72 hours straight or something like that. So I guess that's kind of her fudge situation and my fun situation all in one.
Your hurricane and her hurricane. Oh my God. Oh gosh, that's crazy. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you both made it though. That's a wonderful thing. All right. What's the one thing you're most energized about today, Brandon?
Most energized about. So I'd say, so I have a 5-month-old right now for first child, and the I mean, cliche, but kind of really changes the perception of how finding meaning in these problems. So when we're going after, we're trying to make the world more sustainable, we're trying to improve the climate in whatever way through mobility, energy solutions. I think that really helps to energize and provide a level of purpose, because I'm thinking now, very obviously beyond my own life and beyond my own realm of impact.
Yeah, it's really true. Kids change everything, don't they?
Yep.
Really good point. All right. So what's next for you? Where are you headed? What's your sort of next steps in life? Where are you going, man?
Yeah. So actually exciting. So with FEV, I'm pretty excited that I have, so like I mentioned, I had this global key account role, and I actually now transitioning where I'm focusing on non-automotive sectors. So aerospace, mining applications, marine applications, some different kind of off-highway areas, which I'm really excited about, because these are some areas where there's a lot of exciting work. I mean, if anyone's not familiar with what's being done in the electrified regional and urban air mobility space, it's incredibly interesting how all that development that's being done. And I think it's many other industries beyond that. So I'm really enjoying going out, learning about these industries, finding people to talk with, network with, and figure out where we can help provide solutions to help advance the technology there.
Yeah, outstanding, man. Yeah, I just heard about. So first, apparently, there's an electric boat that's now going across the English Channel. That's transporting all this equipment. It's electric and autonomous, and basically, it's just huge, right? And that's happening. And there's the Maid of the Mist in New York State, up in Niagara Falls. That's now an electric boat, which is pretty incredible. If you've ever been up on the Niagara River and looking at the waterfalls coming down the Niagara Falls, and then I just recently read another story about I'm blanking, son of a gun.
Yeah, I mean, there's different. I mean, even if you look at kind of the big super yacht type applications, there's some interesting stuff being done.
Oh, an electric airplane, 500 miles on an electric plane.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. So, right. It was like, I was blown away by that. There we go. Thank you very much for reminding me about that. You got me going with the, it's a high-end, actually, I guess it's a jet. It's 500 miles and it's a high-end, private plane service that they're using electric for, which is pretty incredible. So, all right. Piece of parting advice and the best way people could connect with you.
Yeah, so I'd say just, I don't know, maybe the simplest parting advice is just the importance of kind of trying to figure out these, if you're trying to make an impact on the environment, especially in the mobility space, and you're trying to, whether it's as simple as just buying your own personal vehicle or choosing the way you're getting around. I urge to try to keep an open mind and perspective. I think, as I mentioned, electric vehicles, super exciting. They're a ton of fun. I don't think we touched on that, but driving one is a ton of fun. But at the same time, if we get into kind of the tribal black and white, the new technology just happens to be better than the shortcomings, right, in everything. And that's where, especially in the short term, as you mentioned, kind of this transition period, it's the importance of understanding that just because something has an engine and it doesn't mean that it's the worst thing possible. And it's understanding kind of, drive less is maybe good advice for if you want to improve the environment. But so that's what I'd say on the advice side. If you want to, get in touch, my LinkedIn page is a good place. I have also, as I mentioned, a podcast I run, the Future Mobility Podcast, where I'm interviewing people working on all these different aspects, whether it's electrification or the internal combustion engine, hydrogen, automated driving, shared mobility, connectivity, all and beyond just the automotive space. So I have weekly interviews I'm doing. I urge you to check out Brandon Bartneck. So my name, Brandon, Bart Simpson's first name, and neck like the body part. BrandonBartneck.com. There's a future mobility page there. You can see kind of all the recent episodes, or you can find it on any place where you're listening to this podcast.
Outstanding. Anything that you wanted to say that we didn't cover?
No, I think we cover most of it. Ron, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad I was able to come on and talk to you. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights, and good luck, man. Sounds like you're working on just some amazing stuff. So really looking forward to seeing what you come out with, and got to listen to that podcast too. It sounds great, man. Looking forward to hearing all the great things that you cover. So
thanks for joining us today, awesome people. We'd like to hear from you, and we'll give you the chance to win a $150 LED light fixture if you help us understand how Awesome EarthKind can help you achieve your clean energy goals. Just go to awesomeearthkind.com and click on Tell Us. When you fill out the survey, you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes for a free LED light fixture, and we'll be giving one away every month for the rest of the year. If you like what we're doing, please rate and review the Awesome EarthKind podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're interested in adding clean energy consulting to your existing business offerings, go to awesomeearthkind.com/earn. When you refer us to a commercial building and they decide to go clean and save green with EarthKind Energy's consulting services, your referral will save money and you'll earn finder's fees worth thousands of dollars. Remember, You are an awesome force of nature and can make a real difference. Take your next step to create the clean energy future we all want and our children need and deserve. Until next time, take care, be well, and energize.